The worst thing about pride is that it blinds you while you walk toward your own destruction. My child, there are some mistakes that can be corrected. But there are others that become a curse on your life. I told you about Ada, the woman who had everything but threw it away with her own hands. I told you how Namdi walked away, not in anger, not in hatred, but with the kind of sadness that comes when a person has nothing left to give. But you see, a person does not truly feel regret until life shows them the full weight of their actions. Ada thought she had lost everything. She was wrong. She was yet to see true loss. Let me tell you what happened next. The first few weeks after Namdi left, Ada was restless. She was still convinced she could get him back. She rehearsed apologies in her head, imagining how she would humble herself before him. But each time she thought of actually going to him, something held her back. Pride. The same pride that had destroyed her relationship was still there, whispering lies into her ears. You are Ada. You are not a woman to beg. If Namdi truly loved you, he would come back. But he did not come back. One night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, something terrifying happened. She heard it. A whisper. Soft. Almost gentle. You are alone now. Ada sat up, heart pounding. She looked around the dark room. The shadows danced in the dim light, stretching long and thin like. She was not a woman who feared the dark, but that night, she felt something. Something she had never felt before. A deep, consuming loneliness. She buried her face in her hands, rocking slightly. For the first time, the realization hit her fully. She was alone. Not just physically. But in every way that mattered. She had pushed away the one person who had truly loved her. And now, she was drowning in the silence he left behind. My children, life has a way of humbling a person. But sometimes, when pride refuses to bend, life chooses to break. One evening, as Ada was walking back home from the market, she noticed something strange. 3 men stood near her gate. They were dressed like ordinary people, but there was something about the way they stood. The way they watched her. Her heart skipped. She recognized them. They were men from the past. Men she had wronged. Years ago, when she was still with Namdi, she had made powerful enemies. She had insulted people she should not have insulted. Humiliated men who had once admired her. Laughed in the faces of those who had tried to show her kindness. And now, they had come back. For revenge. Ada took a shaky breath and walked past them, pretending not to notice their presence. She told herself it was a coincidence. That they were not here for her. But deep inside, she knew. That night, as she locked her doors, she felt uneasy. The air was thick with something unspoken. And then, it happened. A loud bang on the door. Then another. Then another. Ada's breath caught in her throat. Who is there? She whispered. Silence. Then a voice. Deep. Familiar. Did you think we forgot? Fear gripped her. Before she could react, the door burst open. Ada barely had time to react before the door burst open. The men stepped inside, their faces shadowed by the dim lantern light. Their presence filled the room with a suffocating weight, one that made her body tense with fear. She staggered back, her breath caught in her throat. What do you want? She whispered, even though she already knew the answer. The leader of the group took a step forward, his voice calm yet dripping with malice. Did you think we forgot? The walls seemed to close in. Her legs trembled, but she refused to collapse. Not yet. They circled her like vultures, their gazes filled with a twisted satisfaction. Years ago, she had humiliated them, laughed at their advances, crushed their pride, and dismissed them without a second thought. Now, they had returned, and they wanted more than just an apology. Ada clenched her fists. Please, she said, her voice barely audible. But mercy was not what they had come for. The room turned into a nightmare, a place of cruelty and torment. The echoes of her struggles filled the air, swallowed by the darkness outside. When it was over, they left her there, broken, shaking, stripped of more than just her dignity. Before stepping out, one of them knelt beside her, his voice like poison in her ear. "Now you know what it feels like to be powerless." Then, as if rehearsed, they all whispered the same chilling words before disappearing into the night. Mission accomplished. Ada did not move. And that was the night Ada lost more than just Namdi. That was the night Ada lost herself. Some wounds do not heal. Some wounds become part of a person, forever changing who they are. The next morning, Ada sat on the cold floor of her living room, staring at nothing. The house felt different. Smaller. Colder. She was not the same woman who had walked through that door the evening before. She felt hollow, like a body without a soul. She had thought losing Namdi was the worst thing that could happen to her. She had been wrong. Weeks passed. Ada did not leave the house. She barely ate. And then, one morning, she felt it. A strange sickness. A weakness she could not explain. She ignored it at first. But when the days turned into weeks and the sickness did not leave, she knew. She was pregnant. The realization hit her like a tidal wave. Tears filled her eyes. Not just because of the child growing inside her, but because she had no idea who the father was. She had two choices. 1. Accept the truth and live with the shame. 2. Find a way to cover her disgrace. And that was when the thought entered her mind. Lie. Tell the world that Namdi was the father. Tell him that this child belonged to him. Convince him to come back. She looked at herself in the mirror, her hands trembling. She had already lost everything. What more did she have to lose? She made her decision. And with that decision, she sealed. Ada dressed carefully, making sure to look weak but not too weak. Vulnerable, but not pitiful. She knocked on Namdi's door, her heart pounding. He opened it, his face unreadable. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Then, she spoke the words that would set everything into motion. "Namdi. I'm carrying your child." She watched his face closely, searching for any sign of emotion. Shock. Confusion. Then, something else. Hope. Ada felt a flicker of victory. Maybe, just maybe, she could undo her past. Maybe he would believe her. Maybe she could still win. But my child, lies have a way of exposing themselves. And Ada was about to learn that some mistakes can never be undone. To be continued. In the next part, I will tell you how Namdi reacted to Ada's lie. How the truth began to unravel. And the devastating consequences that followed. But for now, remember this. A lie may be sweet in the beginning, but its aftertaste is always bitter. Part 3 coming soon. When the truth begins to unravel.
Like, comment, subscribe, share. Thanks, we love you.